They set her up as a joke on a blind date, something cruel, something they thought would end with laughter and mockery in their group chat later that night. The girl, Emily, had no idea. She believed her best friend when she said, "I know someone perfect for you. He's successful, kind, and he's looking for something real." Emily wasn't the kind of woman who usually got asked out. Shy, quiet, with a wardrobe that spoke of thrift stores rather than boutiques, she kept to herself, working double shifts at the bookstore just to keep up with rent and her younger brother's school expenses. At 24, she looked younger than her age, with soft brown hair always tied back and nervous eyes that avoided direct stares. She agreed to the blind date because her friend insisted. Deep inside, maybe she also hoped someone truly decent might see her for more than her worn shoes or the ink smudges on her fingers. She arrived early to the restaurant, clutching a small purse, sitting in the corner as she smoothed down her thrifted dress again and again. The restaurant was elegant, glowing with amber light, crystal glasses glinting in perfect alignment. It wasn't the kind of place Emily ever imagined herself in. She felt exposed, out of place, like everyone could see she didn't belong. Meanwhile, at another table, the group of so-called friends whispered and giggled, their phones out. They had told her someone was coming, but the truth was, they hadn't arranged for anyone. It was all just a joke, to watch her sit there, waiting for a man who would never arrive, while they filmed her disappointment. But fate twisted that night. Because at that very restaurant, Alexander Reed walked in. Alexander was 35, sharp in a tailored navy suit, the kind of presence that turned heads without effort. Tall, with piercing blue eyes and dark hair swept neatly back, he carried himself with the calm confidence of a man used to being in control. He wasn't just successful, he was one of the youngest CEOs in the city, running a billion-dollar company that bore his family name. Yet behind that aura of power was a father who, despite his reputation, always rushed home in time to tuck his 7-year-old daughter into bed. He hadn't planned on being there that evening. A business dinner had been cancelled last minute, and on his way home, he thought of grabbing a quiet meal. But as he scanned the restaurant, his eyes landed on Emily. She wasn't like the others. While most women dressed to impress, Emily sat nervously, her hands fidgeting with her napkin, glancing toward the door with hope and dread woven into one expression. Something about her vulnerability caught him off guard. The group of so-called friends stifled their laughter when they noticed him watching her. They whispered to each other, "Imagine if he sat with her. That would be hilarious." He'd never. But Alexander moved. He walked past the maitre d', past the servers gliding between tables, and stopped in front of Emily. "Excuse me," his voice was smooth, low. "Are you waiting for someone?" Emily looked up, startled. She nodded quickly, unsure what to say. Yes, I'm supposed to be meeting someone." He studied her for a moment. She looked so small against the grandeur of the restaurant, like a sparrow dropped in a world of falcons. Something inside him tightened, protective, curious. "I see," he said slowly. Then, to her shock, he smiled and pulled out the chair across from her. "Well, until he arrives, may I keep you company?" Emily froze, completely unprepared. "Oh, you don't have to." "I'd like to," he interrupted gently. From across the room, the group of friends gasped. Their prank had spun into something unexpected. Phones tilted higher, recording. Alexander leaned back in his chair, unbothered by the stares. "I'm Alexander." "Emily," she whispered. "Emily," he repeated, as if testing the sound of it. "Tell me about yourself." Her instinct was to deflect, to make herself small, but there was something steady in his gaze that disarmed her. She told him little things. About working at the bookstore, about her younger brother's love for science, about her dream of maybe one day writing a novel. She spoke cautiously, always expecting judgment. But Alexander listened, really listened. Not once did his eyes wander to his phone. Not once did he seem impatient. Hours slipped by. Her laughter, soft and surprised, came more easily. For once, she wasn't invisible. When dessert arrived, Emily finally admitted, I think maybe my friend set me up tonight. And I don't know if anyone is actually coming." She gave a small, embarrassed laugh, lowering her gaze. Alexander's jaw tightened, understanding. He glanced briefly toward the group across the room, who quickly looked away. He saw the glint of their phones, the cruelty in their smirks. He had been in boardrooms filled with sharks, but there was something uglier about this, mocking a woman who had done nothing wrong. He turned back to her, his decision made. "Emily," he said quietly, "then maybe they did you a favor. Because I'm here." Her eyes widened, lips parting. She didn't know how to respond. What happened next silenced the restaurant. Alexander rose from his chair, tall and commanding, and for a moment Emily thought he was leaving. Instead, he walked around the table, stood before her, and then, unbelievably, went down on one knee. The group of friends gasped so loudly that nearby tables turned. Diners whispered. Servers froze mid-step. Emily's heart nearly stopped. What are you doing?" she stammered. Alexander's eyes locked with hers, steady and unflinching. "Emily, life is short. Too many people waste it pretending, lying, playing games. But I've built my entire life on instinct, on knowing when something is worth everything. And tonight, sitting across from you, I know I don't want this moment to end." She shook her head in disbelief, trembling. "You don't even know me." His voice softened. "I know enough. I know you're kind. I know you put others before yourself. I know you've been underestimated, maybe even laughed at, but none of that defines you. What I see is someone real. And that's rarer than gold in my world." Around them, silence thickened, every pair of eyes watching. Alexander reached for her hand. "So here I am, asking you not for an answer tonight, not for forever right away, but for a chance. Emily, will you allow me to prove to you that sometimes the unexpected is exactly what we've been waiting for?" Her breath caught. The cruel laughter she had feared was gone, replaced by stunned awe, by the weight of every gaze fixed on them. Across the room, her so-called friends shifted uncomfortably, their prank turned to ash. Tears pricked at her eyes. She had spent years believing she was ordinary, forgettable. And now, this man, this powerful, unshakable man, was looking at her as though she were the only person in the room. Her lips trembled. "Yes," she whispered. The restaurant erupted into quiet applause. Alexander rose, pressing a kiss to her hand before guiding her gently to her feet. Across the room, the friends slipped out, their laughter silenced, their phones tucked away. None of them dared meet Emily's eyes. Later that night, when Alexander drove her home in his sleek black car, he didn't ask for anything more than conversation. He wanted to know everything. Her favorite books, the color that calmed her, the music she played when she couldn't sleep. And Emily, for the first time in her life, felt like she belonged somewhere, not as a joke, not as a burden, but as someone seen. What started as a cruel trick became the moment that changed everything. Because Alexander Reed, the single dad CEO, didn't care about the rules of their world. He saw her, and that was enough. Days turned into weeks, and Emily found herself swept into a life she never imagined. Boardrooms, galas, dinners with his daughter who clung to her hand and begged for bedtime stories. But more than the glamour, it was the way Alexander never stopped listening, never stopped protecting her light from those who tried to dim it. The city never stopped talking about the night the powerful CEO proposed to a girl in a thrift store dress. But Emily didn't care about the whispers. She only cared about the truth, that sometimes, what begins as a joke can end in the purest kind of love. And Alexander never once regretted it. Because in choosing her, he had frozen the world, silenced the cruelty, and rewritten the story no one expected. Together, they built something that wasn't a performance or a prank, it was real. And for both of them, that was everything.